Hello students. Today we are going to discuss the topic of business strategies or competitive strategies. Now these business strategies or competitive strategies are followed by the companies at individual business level, and they are aimed at gaining a competitive advantage. In fact, these are the strategies that enable the firm to compete at the marketplace. Very accidentally put by Michael Porter, competitive strategy is about being different. It means deliberately choosing to perform activities differently or to perform different activities than rivals to deliver a unique mix of value. Now, if we have a look at what are these 5 generic competitive strategies, we find that this can be understood by way of the diagram, where on the x-axis the type of competitive advantage being pursued is taken, and on the y-axis the market target is being taken. Now the type of competitive advantage being pursued by the firm can be lower cost of their products or services in comparison to the competitors, or it may be a differentiated product different from what is being offered by the competitors at the marketplace. On the other hand, the market target can be a narrow target, which is about targeting a small segment of customers, whereas on the other hand, it can be a broad cross-section of buyers or a large segment of customers being targeted by the firm. Now, if you look at the diagram, we find that when the market target is broad, and the type of competitive advantage being pursued is lower cost than the competitors, then the business strategy is known as overall low cost provider. If the market target is broad and the competitive advantage being pursued by the firm is a differentiation, then it is known as a broad differentiation strategy. If the market target is narrow, that means the firm is targeting a small segment of customers, then the strategy is known as focused low-cost provider strategy. And when the market target is narrow, but the firm is following a strategy of differentiation, rather the competitive advantage being pursued is a differentiation, then the strategy is known as focused differentiation strategy. Interestingly, Michael Porter had talked about these 4 competitive strategies only in the original framework that he had proposed. However, there were many firms who came up with an option. In fact, they experimented with the idea of bringing together the benefit of both low cost and differentiation into their products and services, and came up with another competitive strategy, which is known as the best cost provider strategy. Now today we shall be talking about the low-cost provider strategy, where the low-cost provider strategy is about selling the products and services of the company at low cost in comparison to that of the competitors. Now if you try to understand the low-cost provider strategies, the key to success is make achievement of meaningful lower cost than the rivals the theme of the firm's strategy. Include features and services in products offering that buyers consider essential. Now here you can consider it by way of an example of the low airfare airlines, where they just provide the services of transportation, air transportation from one destination to the other, whereas all the other features and services, additional services, are being charged for additionally from the customers. And then another key to success for the low-cost provider strategies, find approaches to achieve a cost advantage in ways that are difficult for the rivals to copy or match. Now, if we talk about further approach number 1, that is how to secure a cost advantage. Now, this can be achieved by the firms by doing a better job than the rivals of performing value chain activities efficiently and cost effectively. Now, as you would have learned in the internal analysis, that one of the important frameworks for internal analysis is the value chain. And the value-adding activities are the 5 primary activities that add value for the customer. Now, if the firm is able to perform these activities more efficiently and cost-effectively than the rivals, then it can secure a cost advantage. The other approach is that it can revamp the value chain to bypass cost-producing activities that add a little value from the buyer's perspective. Now, how can this be done? Approach number one, as I have said, is about controlling the cost drivers. Now, there are several ways of doing it. The company can go for achieving economies of scale and avoid scale diseconomies. It can capture learning and experience curve effects. It can manage costs of key resource inputs either by backward integration or by some sort of long-term contracts with the suppliers, by way of which it can cut down on the cost of the key resource inputs. Then it can find sharing opportunities with other business units, by way of which it can achieve a synergy and collaborate with or create collaborative value chains, by way of which it can have sharing opportunities and the cost of performing that particular activity is brought down. Then it can compare vertical integration versus outsourcing. Whichever provides better cost advantages to the company can go for it. Then it can control the percentage of capacity utilization. More is the capacity utilized, better are the scope of achieving the economies of scale. And then it can make prudent strategic choices related to operations. The other approach is about revamping the value chain. Now, revamping of the value chain can be about making greater use of internet technology applications. It can use direct-to-end user sales and marketing method and reduce the number of channel intermediaries. It can simplify the product design. It can offer basic no-frills product and service. It can shift to a simpler, less capital-intensive or more flexible technological process. It can find ways to bypass use of high-cost raw materials. It can relocate facilities closer to suppliers or customers. And finally, it can drop something for everyone approach and focus on limited products and services. Now, the keys to success in achieving low-cost leadership are scrutinize each cost-creating activity and identify which are those activities of the value chain which are driving cost. Now, use the knowledge about the cost drivers to manage cost of each activity down year after year. Then find ways to restructure the value chain to eliminate non-essential work steps and low-value activities. Work diligently to create a cost-conscious corporate cultures. And this corporate culture would be peculiar by way of featuring on broad employee participation in continuous cost-cutting efforts and limited perks for executives. And strive to operate with exceptionally small corporate staffs. And then finally, aggressively pursue investments in resources and capabilities that promise to drive costs out of the business. Now, this is what the value chain for a low-cost provider looks like. Now, if you look at the inbound logistics activities, now the inbound logistics activities are about efficient systems to link supplier products with production processes. Then if we talk about operations, it is about use of economies of scale and the construction of efficient scale facilities. And similarly, the other activities of the value chain have been configured in a way that they finally end up providing cost advantages to the company. Now comes the question that when does a low-cost strategy work best? Now, the conditions in which the low-cost strategy works best are when the price competition is vigorous. The product is standardized or readily available from many suppliers. Then in that case, the company may think about following the low-cost provider strategy. There are few ways to achieve a differentiation that have value to the buyers, which means that the buyers have become indifferent to any sort of new product or feature additions to the product. Then the buyers incur low switching cost. And finally, the industry newcomers use introductory low prices to attract buyers and build customer base. So these are the situations in which a company can think about following a low-cost provider strategy. Now, it's not that the low-cost provider strategy works best in all the times. However, the companies may deliberately decide to follow a low-cost strategy given the kind of resources and capabilities that they have. Now, these are some of the pitfalls of the low-cost provider strategies. Being overly aggressive in cutting price. Low-cost methods are easily imitated by rivals, so that competitive advantage of low cost may be lost to the rivals who may come up with better methods, and their products and services may even be underpriced than that of the company. Then when the company becomes too much fixated on reducing costs, it tends to ignore the buyer interest in additional features. It also leads to declining buyer sensitivity to price and the changes in how the product is used. Or otherwise, there are technological breakthroughs through which the rivals are able to achieve better cost reductions. So these are the pitfalls of the low-cost provider strategy. Now, here are some of the examples of the companies that have been following the low-cost provider strategy. One of the best examples is that of Walmart, which is known for its everyday low prices. Similarly, in India, if we see a Smart Bazaar by Reliance happens to be trying to follow the same kind of a strategy where it is offering low prices on an everyday basis. Then Southwest Airlines, that revolutionized the airlines industry by the low-cost model. In India, if we see, the concept of low-cost airlines was brought in by Deccan Airlines. However, it has now been imitated by other airlines like Indigo and Kingfisher Red. Okay, there are other companies like Dollar General, IKEA, McDonald's who have been following the strategy of low-cost provider. Thank you.